Hello, hello. Here I am to chat with you this morning before New Year. It is New Year's Eve. Yes. We're going to chat today about our roadmap to realistic resolutions. How many of you, tell me below, how many of you set resolutions for the new year? And I think resolutions are getting a little bit of a bad rap. It's good to have resolutions, right? It's good to have goals, but we want to be smart about them. And if you've heard that acronym before, you know what's coming up. But it's always good to be reminded because the fresh start effect is real, and we want to take advantage of that. And I remember every day is a fresh start, every week is a fresh start, every month, every quarter. Uh, but we want to definitely want to take advantage of this, January start. And as you can see in our group, we have a few things that are planned to get us started on the right foot, culinary and nutrition wise. So now I have, if you're going to catch the replay on this, I'm going to drop you the link for the ebook that I wrote this week for you. And let me just click over here. I think, can y'all still see me? Tell me if you can still see me. If I go over and look at my road, here we go. If I go look at my ebook, okay. Roadmap to resolutions. I don't know, that kind of makes me nervous. Okay. All right, can you drop me a thumbs up if you can see me? Hey, Jody. Okay, good. I've never done that before. Okay, here we go. So, roadmap to realistic resolutions, where let's talk about some common challenges. We're going to talk about pitfalls, motivation and mindset, right? Now, as we all know, motivation can wane. So we need to have some strategies in place to be a little bit more disciplined about reaching our goals. We want to set realistic, achievable goals, but we also want to be flexible, right? And we want to frame things positively, not negatively. And I've learned that as a great parenting technique as well. And then we're just going to talk about some quick practical strategies that we can put into place every day. So let me ask you, what are some challenges that you seem to encounter every year when you start the year? You have these great plans, these great ideas, and then like maybe the third week of January comes around. What happens? Tell me below. Tell me below what happens. All right. So we're going to try and approach this a little bit differently. Unfortunately, there is a high failure rate. As I think we might be aware, you might be aware from personal experience, high failure rate or low success rate of the new year, new me phenomenon, right? And some of this has to do with that we are addressing habitual behavior. We have ingrained habits, right? That we can't just kind of flip once it turns January 1. We have to think about them because these are things that we've done for years, possibly, that we're trying to turn the clock back on. And since we're trying to modify our habitual behavior, there's not going to be quick gratification on this, right? So, on the one hand, it's good to plan in some quick wins, right? Like I do with my cookie baking every year, when I always make 5 or 7 different kinds of cookies. But I always want to put a quick win in there at the beginning to give myself a little boost, right? So I do like our holiday toffee to start because it takes 5 minutes, stick it in the oven, melt the chocolate chips, sprinkle some, fun stuff on top, bam, done. And I'm feeling good about the cookie making process. So I keep going, right? So when we're trying to modify our habitual behavior, we just need to be aware that it's going to take some time. We're not going to achieve things like weight loss or improve fitness overnight. We're probably going to feel better pretty quickly if depending on sort of the strategies that you put in place, but we're not going to see those big results that we want very quickly. So for example, last year I started my health journey last October. I think it was around Black Friday, actually, just before Thanksgiving. And I just had the realization that, and it had been coming for a while, right? We got to think about things before we're actually ready to make a change. And we really have to commit to it. But I knew that if I didn't change things, things weren't going to change on their own, right? We have to actually take some action. So one of my goals was I had a weight loss goal. And pretty early in the year last year, I lost half the weight that I wanted to for the whole year, which has been fantastic. And I've actually maintained that weight loss despite all of everything that's been going on this past year, right? Life is interesting and exciting. So that's a big win for me. I want to finish losing the weight that I need to lose, and then I also want to, add in some activity, get a little bit more flexible. But anyway, okay, so we want to break the goal. We want to break this cycle. And we want to be able to set realistic, sustainable goals. Okay. So we want to look at our individual capabilities. We want to look at how we're going to integrate those into daily life. And we want to look at our total well-being. This isn't just about, sort of checking off boxes. We want to have a healthier relationship with our bodies and with our minds through our realistic, sustainable goals. All right. So the fresh start effect is real. It's a concept that was explored by researchers at the Wharton School. And it's a surge in motivation, right? That's at the start of the year, start of a milestone. And if we take advantage of it, it is a powerful catalyst. So we do want to take advantage of that forward momentum. Okay. So let's continue to talk about that, our fresh start. What are some pitfalls? Why then do most resolutions fail? Because they're vague and they're big. Want to be more healthy. Okay, well, what do we mean by that? I'm also a philosopher. So what do we mean by that? We want to narrow it down. We want to define our terms, right? So if you say, I'm going to get healthy, that's a great start. That's sort of a great broad, but it's very broad. We want to narrow that down to you. And it's easy to lose track. You can't really keep track of a very broad, overarching goal like that. One thing we tend to over rely on is willpower, right? I'm going to power through. But that's not really what's changing our habits. Okay. Sheer determination. It can get you so far. And there are those days where you definitely have to, kind of put the big girl panties on and eat the right portions. That's one of my bugaboos. Eat the right portions. And that's normal, but that's not going to get us all the way to the big goal, right? Okay. We also can fall into the trap of having this all or nothing mindset. I messed it up. I'm going to quit, change the goal. It's over. Goals can be unrealistic, and we can think that, okay, I'm going to get through. How many of you have heard the phrase, I think it's 21 days, right? It takes 21 days to change a habit. Well, what happens if you haven't changed the habit in 21 days? Do you just give up? Sometimes we think we can power through, right? Those 21 days. But if change hasn't happened, then then we're kind of done. And then then we flatline a little bit, and then we got to regroup. So that's what I want to talk about too, is regrouping and making sure that we can get ourselves back on track, because maybe the goals that you set to begin with weren't the right ones for you at this time, right? That's also the thing. We want to reach, but at the same time, we also want to be realistic. Okay, so setting and pursuing particularly health goals. We want to look at them. It's more than about deciding to change, right? It's about understanding your actions, tracking your progress, setting goals that are achievable. So maybe, sort of the low-hanging fruit, things that you can change pretty quickly. And then the harder goals can stack a little bit later, right? Those are the ones that are really going to make the lasting changes. And you want to make sure that these goals are fit to you. They align with your needs, your feelings, what you really want, and if they're going to get you to that lasting impact, right? So we have intrinsic motivation. There's two kinds of motivation. Intrinsic motivation. This is from the inside, what you generally enjoy, how you feel about things. So if you exercise for fun, that's great intrinsic motivation for exercising, right? Extrinsic motivation, those are rewards and maybe expectations and outside expectations. So it's good to have a mix of those. Take a look at the things that naturally motivate you, that make you happy. So, I love to prepare food. So, and I get a little kick out of preparing those, preparing the meals and, having little meal prep containers ready to go. But that only lasts so long. And I know that from experience. For me, that only lasts so long, and so I've got to have a plan for after that, right? After the fun little containers aren't so fun anymore, and I'm looking at the containers thinking, I don't want to eat out of those containers anymore. All right, so I need to have a plan for after that. But the extrinsic motivation, reward yourself for the little wins and the big wins, right? And if it has to do with health, maybe make them rewards that aren't related to food or to fitness or to, make them outside rewards. Maybe time spent doing something else that you love. Okay. So if your goals are rooted in your personal enjoyment, those are more likely to endure. All right. So we need to shift our mindset from short-term resolutions to long-term habits. And long-term habits, of course, will include those short-term resolutions, but it needs to be balanced. It needs to be balanced. Our goals are an opportunity to learn, to grow, and improve over time, right? So we're going to grow in resilience. We're going to learn how to make adjustments for ourselves. And that's how we're going to get those big goals achieved. By the time we're having this conversation next year, looking at going into 2025, can y'all believe that it's 2025? I am just, our son keeps saying, back in the 1900s when y'all were born. I'm like, oh, okay, 1900s. All right, so we're going to do this together. We're going to do this together. And I hope that you have each, if you're catching this, I hope that you've grabbed your seat for our cleanse seminar or webinars that are coming up. Now, these webinars are not going to stream live into the Facebook group. So you need to definitely register. I'm going to send you the direct link every morning. I hope you can hop on. And if you can't hop on live, the replay will be sent to you if you've registered. Okay. And then you can pop back into the group for all the good community stuff. We're going to have a daily homework, a daily giveaway, and we'll be able to chit chat and all that stuff in the group. Okay. So we're going to pick goals that fit. We're going to break those goals into smaller steps, right? We want to stair step or we want to stack. So if you're thinking about, I need to get fit, well, in my mind, I can go out there and I can do a 30-minute brisk walk, no problem. Unfortunately, the reality is I can probably go out there and do like a 10-minute brisk walk and without losing my breath. And I'm going to need to stair stack onto that, right? So add 5 minutes every few days so that until I get up to 30 minutes a few times a week, right? So think about your routine, think about your responsibilities, think about what you enjoy, think about what fits naturally into your life. Now, there's going to be some uncomfortableness. We do have to account for that. And you do want to get yourself out of your comfort zone when you're trying to pursue some goals, but you want to be realistic about it, right? Okay, so here it is, the SMART goal framework. In the context of health and nutrition, and I think this has been applied in many different areas. I first ran into it with when I was in a training for another company that I was with a few years ago. And I was like, oh, that's actually really smart. Haha. Okay, so the SMART framework for health and nutrition goals. We want to be specific. We want to be measurable. We want to be achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Right? So this is how we turn those big lofty goals into clear attainable goals and how we maintain the progress that we gain while we set these goals. Okay. So specific, you want to clearly define what you achieved. So if you want to eat healthier, well, what does that mean right now? For maybe the next 2-3 weeks, what are you going to try and do to eat healthier? Maybe it's as simple as include a vegetable with dinner. Or it could be as simple as eat a salad at lunch or add a side salad to your lunch, right? Something very specific, something that you can measure, right? So you can check that off, a little tracker every day. And if you register for the webinar, I also have a tracker for you for all of these things. So it needs to be measurable and it needs to be achievable. Can you add a vegetable to dinner every evening? Probably. Does it take some planning? Probably. But adding a vegetable versus I'm going to go plant-based, right? That would be huge and overwhelming and require much more knowledge, education, and experience, and to be able to flip your whole kitchen to plant-based in 24 hours so you can get started on January 1, right? But adding a vegetable and maybe transitioning towards being more plant-based, now that's achievable. You want it to be relevant. Does it make sense to add more vegetables to your dinner? Yes, that's the short answer for all of us. For all of us. And my favorite way to add vegetables is just to roast them. Chop them up, olive oil, salt, pepper, onion, garlic powder, maybe even some paprika to give it a little bit of a kick. And there we go. You can do that with broccoli. That's one of our favorites. You can do it with broccoli. You can do it with a mix, broccoli, bell peppers, squash, carrots. Carrots are on the starchier side. Potatoes, are, of course, are a starch, but you can also throw those in. Green beans, it works wonderfully. So, and you also want to then set a time limit on this. Okay, so for how long am I going to try to add a vegetable to dinner? I'm going to do it for the next 3 weeks. And then we're going to reevaluate and go from there. Okay. So specific, so smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. We do want to keep track, but we don't want to keep track in a negative way. We want to keep track in a positive way, because if it's not something that you're able to achieve, then we need to think about the goal again. All right. So here are some more examples. Why don't you drop below for me some of the goals that you've maybe tried, excuse me, in the past year, successfully or not, and we can try to reframe them a little bit. And I'm not on my screen to see the comments, but I will get back to all of your comments after I go through the ebook. Okay, so here's another example. I'm going to walk 20 minutes every morning before work for the next month. Okay, it's specific, 20 minutes morning before work, right? It's measurable, 20 minutes. 20 minutes, it's not too much, right? You can fit that in. It's achievable, it's relevant, and it's time bound for the next month. Let's see how that goes. Okay, here's another example. I will replace my afternoon soda with a glass of water every day for the next 2 weeks. So specific change, measurable, and it has a clear time frame. A third example related to fitness. I will attend 2 yoga classes per week for the next 3 months. Specific, time bound, easy to track. Okay. And if any of you have Trello, it's free. You can make your own trackers with your own goals, but I'm going to give that to you. So you can just add your goals onto the card and then you can check it off. And if you're like me, those little green check marks are gold. They keep me going for sure. When I'm having a hard day, I'm like, oh, look, I can check all of these off. And, I've made progress. It's okay. All right. So we're going to set goals. We're going to give them a try. And then we're going to be flexible. And this is how we're going to be flexible. And this is with a view to long-term success, right? Because if we're too rigid about it, then we're going to get stressed about it. And then then we're going to have a sense of failure, right? Because life happens. Life happens. What happened all this past year with losing the second half of all the weight that I wanted to lose? Well, life happened. And my goal became not to lose, but to maintain. If I could maintain the progress that I had made by March or April last year, then if I could maintain that through everything that was going on, then that was going to be my win. And I did. I've maintained. So now it's time to up the ante a little bit, right? Okay. Flexible goals, adapt to changes, and keep us on track. So we don't want to fall off. And even if we do fall off the wagon, we want to be able to get back on, right? All right. And if you're able to adjust your goals to fit your changing situations, you're more likely to be able to maintain your motivation. You're more likely to achieve success. It might not be as quick as you would like it to be, but overall, right? We want to look at the big picture. So we definitely want to be adaptable. And being smart about being flexible, it doesn't mean that you're giving up. It just means that you're being savvy. You're being smart about your overall goals in the midst of life changes. Now, there are times when it is the time to kind of buckle down and know that, there are situations where, you have to make the changes right away, or, there might be more dire consequences to not making the quick changes. Say you've had a doctor's visit, blood pressure, cholesterol, such. and he wants you to make changes like yesterday, or she wants you to make changes like yesterday, then let's talk about that. Call me. We'll get you through it. We'll set you up with a plan. All right. So there's going to be setbacks, right? We want to reevaluate and adjust. We want to break down the larger goals. So maybe what's happened is we weren't as specific and measurable as we needed to be when we first started. So we want to break down the larger goal a little bit more. And you definitely want to celebrate your victories, small or big. Pat yourself on the back. Plan for obstacles and then seek support. So come back to this group. That's what we're here for. Call me. So a big thing here, I think a lot of you are moms or teachers, and you've learned that framing things positively versus the no can definitely have a more lasting effect, right? I think in our hallway at church, we have a lot of kids that like to run down the religious ed hallway because we have a school building. So instead of yelling out, no running in the halls, walk in the hallways, because then that gives us what we're supposed to do, as opposed to just don't do that. We need to know what we're supposed to be doing or what we need to be doing instead of just not doing something, right? So that way it's positive and it's oriented towards our goals. So instead of stop eating junk food, eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. Specific, measurable, achievable, right? You can check those off. Shift in focus. Yes, we want to direct our attention then towards what we're going to do and achieve, adding those healthy new habits and behaviors rather than just getting rid of the old ones. Because if the new ones start to overtake, then we've kind of, we've eliminated the old ones without it being a get rid of this, stop doing this. And we've also focused more on our intrinsic motivation, which is also going to give us longer sustainability and success rates towards those goals, as opposed to just not doing something, right? How many of you have experienced that with yourself? Better results if you frame something positively for yourself versus negatively, right? Just not do this. Now, sometimes you do have to tell yourself, okay, quit doing that. Just stop it. But then immediately say, okay, but this is what the positive effect of that is, right? So I have to tell myself, okay, quit going to bed. Too late. Make sure you're in bed. So I reframe that, right? Okay, I'm going to be in bed by 11. And that way I can be up early in the morning to get things done, as opposed to trying to do things half asleep, half tired in the middle of the night. How many of you are night owls? I know I'm not alone in that one. Okay, so this actually has a psychological basis behind it, right? How we frame our goals does significantly influence our mindset and our motivation. And positive goal framing has been found to be linked to higher motivation and better mental well-being. Whereas negative goal framing, it can have a short-term success rate, but avoidance, if you're setting your goals in relation to avoiding something, often that does lead to increased stress, feelings of deprivation, becoming demotivated over time. So, and those are things that we're going to avoid too in our 5-day cleanse, is too much restriction, and we're going to focus on supporting our body's natural detox system, as opposed to kind of cracking down on it and making it do its thing. Okay, so, and positive framing, it empowers you, it empowers us. It gives you more enthusiasm for pursuing your goals, makes it easier to integrate changes into your lifestyle. It's a more joyful approach to becoming a better you, health and well-being wise. Okay, so here are some examples. 1, lose 20 pounds. Okay, or 40 or 50 or however many. Instead of saying, now you do want to write that down. If you do have a specific goal to lose weight, we're not saying don't acknowledge that, but let's reframe that to achieve a healthier weight with regular exercise and balanced eating. So we want to focus on the positive actions and the overall health benefits. By doing that, we're going to get to the weight loss of the 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds. Okay. Example 2, rather than not skipping my morning workout, reframe this to start my day with a refreshing 30-minute workout. So you have a positive daily action as opposed to I used to be very good at working out first thing in the morning, and then I had children. How many of you can relate to that? And a third example, okay, instead of saying stop eating out so much, I don't know about you, but we've indulged quite a bit over the last week or two. So instead of saying stop eating out so much, set a goal to cook nutritious homemade meals just maybe 3 times a week, right? Emphasize the positive behavior of cooking and enjoying healthy meals at home. And one of the big tips I have about if you're used to eating out a lot, if you're used to even picking up pre-made meals at the grocery store or even ordering the pre-made meals online, and there are many great services. I've even tried a few of them. Be aware that a lot of those, even though they're healthier, they're still going to have more salt and more ingredients, more additives and things to that aren't going to be in your homemade food. So my experience with clients, when I first do a kitchen assessment, if I notice that there's a lot of to-go containers that are in the fridge and freezer, or a lot of sort of pre-made things, then that automatically tells me their taste buds are adjusted for food that they may be saying that they want, the healthier homemade food. But even adding a good amount of salt and seasoning and fats in good homemade food, it's still not going to maybe approach what your taste buds are used to from eating out or bringing home. Okay, so just be aware of that. So homemade lasagna versus frozen lasagna versus lasagna from the restaurant, it's going to be delicious. But to start with, you may need to add a lot more seasoning and give yourself a little bit of grace before you, maybe move on to that vegetable lasagna, which is going to taste like cardboard to you, most likely, no matter how much seasoning you put in it. Okay, so just something to be aware of. You've got to give your taste buds a chance to adjust. Okay, so some more practical strategies, right? Tiny adjustments, less overwhelming. So you want to begin small if you're trying to add in some fitness. And I do have some fitness friends that I hope will be guest speakers for me in the next month or two. You want to just start small. Maybe start with the short 10-minute walk or a short 10-minute stretching routine in the evening or in the morning, and then gradually increase as you feel more comfortable. Of course, always check with any health provider that you have for any health, well-being, nutrition, fitness changes that you're wanting to make for the new year, just to be on the safe side. Because if you are on medications, if you do have specific medical conditions, then any changes you make, you definitely want to check with your health providers. Okay, and we're also looking for consistency. The goal is consistency, not perfection. How many of you are perfectionists, right? And if you can't do it perfectly, then you're most likely not going to get it done at all. Do it messy. Just get started. And then through the consistency, then you work out what works best for you towards the goals that you're trying to integrate into your life, right? Because remember, we're trying to change our habits when it comes to eating and fitness, and not just eating, but we also need to look at our cooking habits, because even though we have so many conveniences now, there's really no replacement for being able to cook simple, delicious foods at home for yourself on the regular. I have a cat wandering around that needs to go out. So we're going to talk about that. I've got 20 plus recipes for you in this cleanse that's coming up. And I'm going to be offering a daily cook with me session that I hope all of you will take advantage of. And we're going to cook together. I'll provide you with the recipes and the ingredient list ahead of time. And then we're going to have time to prepare those meals together so that you have them for yourself and for your family. Okay. So Practical strategies. Yes, we were talking about this. Okay. I keep consistency over perfection. And so, what do we want to focus on? We want to focus on mindful eating, smart snacking, and hydration. Those are kind of the three areas that we can get ourselves in trouble with, right? So, hydration is the easy one. You definitely need enough water in order just to keep your body balanced and everything moving, right? You want at least 8 glasses a day, and that's something that's specific and it's measurable. You can check it off on a tracker, whether you're active or not. That's kind of the baseline. Another way to think about it too is half your body weight in ounces. Okay. So think about what your body weight is, divide that in half, and then just instead of saying that's pounds, say it's ounces, and that's how much water that you need during the day. So most of us probably need 2 of those Stanley mugs of water, not the ice, water. So probably 3. All right. And sometimes too, this actually, there is some truth to this. Sometimes when we feel hungry, that's actually being thirsty. And especially this time of year when we're indulging a little bit more, we're going to be a little bit thirstier because higher sugar foods, higher fat foods, higher sodium foods, all of those dehydrate us a little bit more. All of those take more water to process through our system. Okay, so smart snacking. Here's another good one that I hope you took advantage of during the holiday season. Opt for nutrient dense, satisfying snacks. So, what are those? What are we talking about? Fruits, yogurt, whole grains, things that are going to sustain your energy in between those meals, right? So, and if you want to think like 5 smaller meals during the day, as opposed to 3 big ones, and then maybe 2 snacks, that kind of spreads it out a little bit more. But again, that's all individualized. Health is so individualized that there's no magic bullet. It really does take a little bit of time and a little bit of effort and awareness to figure out what works for you. And that's what I'm here for. Call me, message me. All right. And another big thing, mindful eating. How many of us are guilty of not mindful eating? All right. We're going through the drive-through. We're scarfing something down at lunchtime. And you can still, just plan ahead. Just plan ahead. So we want to be present while we eat. My husband's always saying, would you sit down while you eat? I'm like, no, I don't have time. Yes, you do. Even if it's 5 or 10 minutes. Now, you do want to try to stretch a meal out to 15, 20 minutes because that gives your brain literally the time enough to tell your body to tell your brain, okay, I'm full now, right? Especially when you're adjusting portion sizes. This is really important. So we want to be present while we eat. Really savor your food. So make sure it's delicious. And there are plenty of ways to flavor your food without being high in salt, high in fat, or, all those things that we don't want to be high in anymore. And if you haven't grabbed my fresh herbs guide, I'll drop that link below too. Please do grab it. And even if you don't have fresh herbs, you can convert those to dried herbs. I think it's like 1 to 1/3. If it's 1 teaspoon of fresh, then it's like 1/3 of a teaspoon dried, because dried is a little bit more potent, right? So we want to be able to listen to our body's cues, and we're going to talk about that more on day 5 for mindful eating, right? We want to enjoy. Try to eat with someone else. Don't be on your phone. Try not to, and these are all things that I need to work on as well, right? Because we're all going a mile a minute. We all have things that we're doing during the week. So mindful eating, smart snacking, and hydration. And if you're enjoying caffeine during the day, remember, caffeine at a certain point does start to dehydrate you. So you do have to drink more water. Straight up water. All right. And physical activity. This is my last, cat needs to go out. This is my last tip. We do want to incorporate physical activity. I don't know how many of you, what kind of reels come across your Facebook or Instagram. We recently went to the Nutcracker, so I'm getting all these ballet and point shoe reels, which are really fascinating, actually. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's really kind of incredible what ballerinas have to be able to do. But there is this one reel that keeps coming up, and I can't remember. If I can find it again, I will pop it in here for you. But it's the, if you're not able, it's the one that goes, like if you can't get up from the floor, then you're in a certain way, then you're more likely or highly likely to be disabled by the time you get to this certain age. And in my mind, I think, oh, that looks easy. I can do that. And then, yeah, no, not so much. Not 18 anymore, or even 24. So, but not yet 50. So I'm counting the days. And that's just a milestone. It's just a milestone. And if I get closer to my goal by the time my birthday comes up next year, then I will be happy about that. But I'm really going to have to, make some good changes. So we'll talk about that more during the cleanse too. All right. So daily activity. You don't need a gym. We've all heard it, right? Take the stairs, get your steps in, park further away when you go to the grocery store or to any kind of store. And play with your kids, play with your grandkids, take the dog for a walk, just add in more activity. And thank goodness we can keep more track of our steps, right? If you have a watch or a phone. And incorporate those into your goals too. Is it 10 minutes? Is it 15 minutes? Just find what works for you. So make health a part of your daily, everyday routine, because that's what this is all about, right? Our daily routine. And that's going to take some time. And that's okay. It should. All right. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I'm going to get back to comments. I'm going to pop this link to the ebook down below, as well as a couple of other things that I mentioned. And enjoy the weekend. It is New Year's Eve, right? So enjoy the weekend. Happy New Year to all of us, to all of you. And I will see you next week, and specifically on January 8th. And we're going to dive into our functional detox. Have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you for tuning in.